Welcome back to Insights with PT. As we reflect on the previous episodes of This Is My Story with Pastor Tola, it is clear that every twist and turn molded him to become who God wants him to be. Though the path wasn't easy, the lessons gained have definitely helped him get where he is now. Here's PT, continuing with the journey of his story.
So they gave me some space, so I moved towards it. I was looking at the numbers, and I stopped. I said, yeah, that's it. That's my number. I passed. And then as soon as I turned back, my case was just like blind Bartimaeus. You know, when he shouted, they said, keep quiet. But when Jesus called him, they say he's calling you. But when he left Jesus, he left with good news. So by the time I was leaving that post, and I turned back, the people that were saying things about me started congratulating me. They said, oh, congratulations. I said, okay, look at this guy now. You know. but it was good, you know. But so that was it for me. And by the time I passed, I lost every interest in accounting. And it was then that I realized that part of the reasons why I did it, you know, was to prove a point to myself and also to prove a point to my dad. Do you understand? You know, I remember going back home and said to him I had passed and say, oh, really? Congratulations, So he said, what am I going to do then? I said, nothing. I said, I just wanted to prove to you that I can pass this exam. And that was it for me, you know. So,
Pastor T, when you told him that, did he say anything to you? Did he have some type of look towards you when you?
Yeah, there were always the looks. I grew up with looks. Looks don't kill. I'm okay. You know, there are looks, you didn't like it. Really didn't matter. You know, to me, I just felt that I needed to prove that point. Do you understand? And that, for me, made me free. I just said, I'm free. I can do whatever I want to do now. Do you understand? Even though I continued practicing accounting, you know, for a while. It was because of that practicing, you know, accounting that in 1986, I went on an audit of a company. I think it was a bankruptcy. You know, the company was winding down, so we had to do the winding down. So in the course of it, I met a lady, you know, and we started dating. And the dating wasn't a Christian kind of dating, you know. Of course, I wasn't the only Christian, so. And then in 1986, December, thereabout, I went to see this lady. I was working in Lagos. You know, I finished the audit, come back to the headquarters, then they post you to another place. So I was working in Lagos. So I went on a weekend to see the lady. And then she said to me, I'm born again. So I'd never had that thing before, even though I knew some scripture union people while on campus, you know. But the term born again, you know, it was just, I said, born again, what do you mean by that? And she said, oh, she's this now, she's a Christian, So I said, oh, really? So she said, you know what, this relationship, you know, let's see how it goes, but we are not going to be dating like before, So she said she wanted to go to church. It was a midweek service. She said she wanted to go to church. So I said, okay, let me drop you in church. No, it wasn't a midweek, it was during the weekend. So I said, okay, let's go. So we went to the church. And very interesting. She was wearing pants. My religious mind told me and said to her, okay, why are you wearing pants? If you are really this Christian that you say, you should dress, And she said to me, what has pants got to do with salvation? And And we had an argument. You know, we were in my car and we had an argument. So I said to her, okay, you know what? I'll just drop you at the church and then hopefully you can find your way back home. So I dropped her and I turned back. And I went home, and from there I went back to Lagos. For 3-4 days, I could not sleep. I mean, God just arrested me. And I could hear God say, you came to my house and you turned back. Because I didn't even get down to go to the church. I've never experienced that in my life. So, on a midweek service, I could barely wait for the Wednesday service midweek. Boom. I took time from work. I just went to the city, Ibadan. I waited till the service time. I drove and I walked into the church. The lady was there too, but she didn't know that I was there. It's a very prominent church in Ibadan, So service started, so they made an altar call, and I got up and I went to give my life. And when she saw me walking, she almost collapsed. Like, what? This guy? So then we were counseled. So after the service, she came to me and said, "Well, God, that's good. Congratulations." But the shock on her face, it was puzzling to me. I said, "But are you not the one saying that people should be born again? Now I'm born again. Look at how puzzled you are that I'm born again. You should." I was just trying to mess her up. But something happened to me that day. I never saw anything in that girl that day. It was only as if I'm talking to my sister. Blood sister. Nothing. And she was shocked because, she thought, oh, now that this guy is born again, the relationship can continue. So I called her, I said, listen, thank God for what you have done, everything. But this relationship ends here. That the moment I gave my life, there is nothing. You people call it one name like that, when you see a man or you see a woman, you say there is no, is it connection or something like that? Chemistry.
Chemistry.
There's no chemistry, you call it that name. So there was none. None. So it wasn't really a good kind of separation or saying goodbye. But so eventually, this is the amazing thing. The church that I started attending in Lagos, I became a pastor of that church. That lady also became a member of that church. You understand? But the whole thing had, nothing, So anyway, so in January of 1987, I was sent on an assignment to audit the NYSC, in Abeokuta, the Ogun State one. So I went there and I said, let me go and see my sister. So my sister was in college at that time, studying accounting. It's same accounting I studied at. So I went to her house. It was early in the morning, maybe like 10 a.m. or something like that, And all the students were living off campus. So she had a flat. So we were in the living room, and they all each had their rooms, As we were talking with my sister, then a lady walked in, and that was Pastor Kofu, As soon as she walked in, I heard clearly, God said, "That's your wife." I said, "My wife?" I just gave my life in December. I had started hearing God by January. And I can tell you, I can't attribute to anything that I did that is exceptional or whatever, extraordinary. But thinking back, I announced it to myself, it's for now, because God already knew what I was going to become. So he started showing himself very early to me, because I had clearly, up to today, my wife doesn't like the story because it's not romantic, And I'm saying to her, that was 38 years ago. We are still together. What kind of romance are you? But apologies to women. There's just something that you just want to hear something like one man riding on a horse and coming down. I didn't ride any horse, man. I'm telling you, I was walking. I just sat on where I was. She walked in and God said, "That's your wife," Now, because I had left partying, the world, and I'm not a Christian, I didn't know how people talk to ladies, in Christianity. So that was a challenge. It's like, how do they date as Christians? What do they say? What do they do? Do they read Bible? Did they do this? Whatever. What do they do? But that night, we went out, and then a couple of our friends, and one our friend came to me, who's also my sister's friend, and said, hey, are you really sure about this girl? Because your sister told me that, please don't mess up this girl. I said, what do you mean by mess up? I was a big boy. I'm telling you the truth. I was a big boy, and all my friends were big boys. So in my life, I'd never dated any of my sister's friends. And I told you I have 7 sisters. So it's not like I couldn't have, but in my life, this happened because I had God. So that night, I said to her, God told me you are my wife. And she was laughing like, this guy, what are you talking about? Anyway, I left it. So we started, and later she said to me, she wanted to see me. She wanted to have a chat with me. I told her I started hearing God very early in my relationship as a Christian. So I went to God and I said, God, please tell me what she wants to say. Show me. And God showed me clearly. It was very interesting. So we parted ways, and I left her. It took me 1 year. We didn't see each other for 1 year. Nothing. I tried to start other relationships, but nothing happened. Do you understand? And then God told me, I said, that lady I told you, she's your wife. Go back to her. She's waiting for you. I didn't know for about 6 months she had been waiting that I should come back. But I said, so why didn't you send people to me? But, women of those days, I don't know how they do it now, but I know ladies of now, they will even Facebook him and DM him and do whatever and do anything. I say, oh boy, get your behind and come here. I'm waiting for you. Anyway.
But I have a question. So God told you that she was your wife. So how come you still tried to date other people? How come you just left it alone and moved on?
I can call that, on my part, spiritual immaturity. I was growing. And I felt from me knowing that she has a boyfriend, from her saying, this thing cannot work, I said, okay, I'm going to try something else. Not because I didn't believe that God said that, but I just felt, let me do something else. Will I do that now? I'm not going to do that now. Because I've walked long with God to realize that if He says something, that's it. So I will just wait. I won't try anything new. So I eventually, went to her house, and she said to me, oh, I've been waiting for you for 6 months. I said, okay, no problem. So we started the relationship.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. A huge thank you to Pastor Tola for sharing such powerful and personal stories with us. Stay tuned every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time as we dive into further chapters of his story. Thank you.